Hi, welcome back to SpiceBox TV. Today I'm going to be cooking what's probably our most popular dish at the curry house and a recipe that loads of you guys have been requested since we started SpiceBox TV. Today I'm going to show you how to make our famous cashew and coconut korma, and we're going to be making it with spring veg today, which I'll come to in a bit. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a spice paste, which is going to form the base of our korma. We're going to take some whole spices and we're going to toast them first. So I've got some coriander seeds, some cumin seeds, and some fenugreek seeds. So we're going to add these to a hot pan. And you know they're ready as soon as they start releasing a really beautiful aroma and they start turning golden brown. Fenugreek's quite a strong flavour, so we're going to go kind of roughly half the amount of fenugreek to whole spices. Give them a jiggle around in the pan. Going to turn up my heat. So now we're going to get the rest of the spice mix ready. Just going to start with a bit of oil to get everything going. So a couple of tablespoons should do it. You don't want to go crazy on the oil. And then to that we're going to add about 5 or 6 garlic cloves. Now garlic's one of those things that people tend to hold back on when they're cooking a curry. But usually the secret to a really great, delicious curry is not to hold back on your spices or your garlic. So we're going to go in with about 6 cloves today. And I'm just going to give those a whack with a knife. This is the easiest way to get the skins off. Right, those are all peeled. We're just going to throw those into the jug. Next, we're going to go in with about a thumb-sized piece of ginger. Now, I never, ever peel my ginger. I think it's a waste of time. So we're just going to take the ginger, chop it into rough pieces, and then that can go straight into the blender. Okay, by this time my spices are beautiful and golden and they're smelling so, so delicious. It's really important you toast your spices because there's loads of essential oils in those that get released when you heat them, and that's where you get the real flavour from. So I'm going to take those off the heat for a bit, just because they've got to settle down and cool down before you add them to the spice mix. And then the last thing for our spice paste is going to be, we're going to probably do half an onion. This is quite a big onion. If you had a smaller onion, you could go in with a whole one. So we're going to add the onion to the spice mix because the korma sauce is really velvety and creamy and smooth. And by blending the onion, you kind of add to that smoothness. You don't have the bits of onion in the sauce. Go straight into the blender. Okay, my spices are now ready. They've cooled down a bit. So they're just going to go in there if I don't spill them all over the chopping board while I'm doing it. And last thing, for a bit of colour and that beautiful flavour, we're going to go in with about half a teaspoon of turmeric. So that should be enough for now. We can always add more later if we think we need it. Let's hope this blends. I might actually add a bit of water. If you're worried about it not all blending, you can always add a splash of water to get things going. So that's all blended together. We're going to put that down to one side for a second, and now we're going to start the curry sauce. So I'm going to start it with what's called a temper, and that's essentially frying whole spices in hot oil. So I'm going to wait for my pan to get nice and hot before I add the oil to the pan. And into that oil, we're going to put 3 whole spices. We're going to put some bay leaf, around 2 bay leaves. We're going to put a couple of cloves, and then a pinch or so of cardamom pods. With the cardamom pods, you want to give them a good old bash with your knife, because that's going to really release all the flavours. So just side of a knife, probably about 4 cardamom pods. We're going to add a generous coating of oil, just to make sure the spices can get frying. Okay, so in they go. So we're going to leave those to fry for a few seconds, again, until they turn golden and start smelling delicious and aromatic, and then we're going to add the spice paste. So we're going to put about 2 tablespoons of the spice paste. Give that a stir, and we're just going to let that cook out for a few minutes. You've got raw onion, garlic, ginger in there, and you've got some raw spices from the turmeric as well, so you've got to make sure that you cook that out. You don't want to be adding the next ingredients while your curry sauce is still raw. So that can take a good kind of 5–10 minutes to cook out at this stage. Oh, it smells so good. So while your spice paste is cooking, you can make the cashew cream. So what I've done is soaked some cashews, about 60 grams of cashews, in cold water for about an hour or so they get nice and soft and they're easy to blend. So we're going to add those to the blender, and then you just want to cover them with a bit of water. We're not going to add too much water at this stage because we want a nice thick cream. About a minute or so at high speed to create a really smooth flavour. Can you hear me? Great. So that's all done. And you know your spice paste is cooked when the oil starts separating. So if you have a look at this pan, you'll see that the oil started separating from the spice mix, that kind of yellow oil. That's when you know it's ready for the cashew cream to be added. So we're going to add the cashew cream now. It's essentially like a double cream that you've created from the soaked cashews. So we're just going to add that in now to the spice mix and cook it out for a bit. I'm always quite generous with my cashew cream because I don't think you can ever have too much of it. It's so rich and delicious and really good for vegan cooking. Right, next is a cashew and coconut korma. So now we're going to add the coconut. Just a tin of coconut milk. Be absolutely fine. You can use cream and coconut cream and a bit of water as well, but I find coconut milk works best in this recipe. In with the coconut cream. We'll leave that to melt in. I'll turn up the heat a bit. So while your sauce is cooking away on the stove, you can start preparing your vegetables. So I like to use a mix of seasonal vegetables, and it's kind of early summer at the moment. So of course, I've chosen asparagus. Such a great veg, really good in curries. Adds like a nice freshness and texture to it. So we're going to take a bunch of asparagus. I'm also going to put some carrot in. I often add carrots to korma. Just adds a really nice colour contrast and a bit of crunch. So with the carrot, we're just going to top and tail it and then cut it into slices on the diagonal. But like I said, it's really up to you what veg you use. In the winter, I'd probably go with a butternut squash or a sweet potato. So with asparagus, you just want to break it. So snap it, and where it snaps, that's where the kind of woody stalk ends. Don't throw your stalks away though, because we don't like food waste. And they make the most delicious veg stock. So you can boil some water, use carrot peelings, asparagus stalks, even onion skins and peelings to create a really delicious veg stock. Again, you can just freeze it, keep it in your freezer. I'll show you that another time in another video. And I've also got some cauliflower roasting. So it's been roasting in the oven for about half an hour on 200 degrees. Great, so I'm going to put that to one side for now. We'll add it in later because that's cooked. So the last thing we want to do is overcook the asparagus, so we're going to leave that for last. We're going to add the carrots into the sauce first, and we're going to turn up the heat. Bring it to the boil and leave those to cook for a bit. So as your carrots are cooking, that's also going to give the sauce a really nice chance to reduce and get thicker. This is sort of the consistency we're looking for. You want it to be saucy, but still nice, thick and velvety. And now we can add our cauliflower. So because this is roasted, we're just going to add it straight to the pan. I like to slightly undercook it in the oven, and that gives it a bit more room to cook in the pan once you've added it and absorb all those delicious flavors that are coming through from that curry paste we made. And now I'm going to add this asparagus. Just going to chop it up roughly into kind of fork-sized pieces, like so. So asparagus will take about 5 minutes to cook in this sauce. If your sauce is a bit on the thick side at this stage, you can always add a splash of water to get it going. It will probably reduce down a bit again, but mine, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to let that cook away for one side and grab my peas out the freezer. Great, so the asparagus is cooked. Now just a handful of peas to finish it off. Stir those in. And while they're defrosting in that sauce, we'll prep our toppings. So I like to serve the korma with a wedge of lime. The lime really cuts through that creaminess and lifts all the flavors of the fresh spring veg. And also some toasted cashews. So I've just simply roasted these in an oven for a couple of minutes and really brings out the natural flavor of the cashews. They're so good roasted like this. Right, so that's cooked. We're going to take that off the heat, and I'm going to serve it with some basmati rice. Should we go green? We'll go green. This is our cameraman Dolly's lunch. Generous portion. So the korma is just going to go on top in the middle. So just a sprinkling of the toasted cashews over the top. These add a really nice texture to the dish. Some roughly chopped coriander and that wedge of lime.